If you didn't already know about Dave Ramsey's 7 baby steps, they can take you from being broke, busted, and disgusted to retiring with dignity. That is the subject of today's video. Let's get into it. Personal finance for us, coming to you from my basement today because that's that quarantine life. It's the only place I can hide. Probably the next several videos will be shot from here, but that's all right. So the subject of today's video is Dave Ramsey's 7 baby steps. For anyone that doesn't know, Dave Ramsey's probably one of the most famous personal finance coaches ever, and he coined what he calls his 7 baby steps. And the beautiful thing about those steps is literally they're designed for anybody. If you have an income, you have a job, you can follow the 7 baby steps, and that's probably why he's been so popular over the years. However, before you get into those baby steps, there is a little bit of homework you have to do. A lot of us have absolutely no clue overall how much is coming in and how much is going out every month. So your first homework assignment is to open up that checking account app, look at how much money has come in, unless of course you're salaried, it's going to be about the same, but a lot of people aren't salaried, and look at how much is going out, predominantly those non-fixed expenses. So obviously you should probably know what things like your mortgage or rent or car payment are every month. Those are pretty stable, but it's things like groceries, things like eating out, gifts, kids activities, those things that change month to month, those you want to pay special attention to. Take an average of all your income and the lists of those expense categories. Take an average over the last 3 months and get a real picture of what's going in and what's coming out. For some of you, you're going to be like, oh my God, what have I done? Others, you might get a little bit of a boost and be like, hey, all right, I can actually cut back. I have more room to breathe than I thought. But you certainly don't know where to start, or what your case is, I should say, if you don't go back and look. You can't have personal finance success not knowing where your money's going. And that also speaks to the importance of that dirty B word, budget. All right, so once we know where our money is coming in, going out, where we can cut back, where we can't cut back, if we maybe need a second job, it's time to start baby step number 1. And that is the easiest step, kind of, and the most important step. And that is to save $1,000. That is going to be your baby starter emergency fund. This is critical, one, because obviously it shows that you've made your mind up to have some financial change in your life, and that is great and good for you for making that decision. The other piece to it is the emergency fund is kind of that acknowledgement that a rainy day is coming. It's going to rain, things happen. We as people have this tendency to think that life is just always going to be this straight trajectory up, and it's not. It's more like this. You're going to have peaks and valleys, hopefully, while things are on the trajectory up overall. But things are going to happen, expenses are going to happen, transmissions go out, tires need to be fixed, life happens. So having that baby starter emergency fund is so crucial, and this is the foundational piece, because when something like that happens, when you have a tire flat that needs to be repaired, when the transmission goes out, when all of a sudden it starts raining in your roof, or maybe not raining in your roof because that's a bit more of an expensive fix, but when things happen, you don't have to put these things that you weren't prepared for on a credit card. It can be daunting to try to get out of debt and you're still constantly using that credit card. So that is what's so important about baby step number 1, is getting that $1,000 baby starter emergency fund, so that when life's ifs happen, you have a little bit of cushion. Alright, so after you save up that $1,000, did what you had to do, sold some stuff, sold the kids, just a joke. Now it's time to move on to baby step number 2, and that is the debt snowball. What is debt snowball? So the concept of the debt snowball is, well, literally kind of like a snowball. You're going to take all of your debts and you're going to arrange them from smallest to largest. So say you have a $1,000 credit card, a $2,000 credit card, and a $20,000 car. And those are your 3 debts, okay? And you're going to write them down from smallest to largest, and you're going to make the minimum payment on everyone except for the lowest debt. Now at this point you might, depending on what your financial picture looks like, hey, maybe you were blowing $500-600 a month on eating out and going to the bar or something outlandish like that, and you do actually now have some wiggle room in your budget now that you see where that money's going. Maybe you don't need to get a second job, but for a lot of people, or if you have a lot of debt, now's the time to get like a second job going, some side hustles going. You want to maximize your income as much as you can to get this debt paid off. And the beauty of the snowball is going to be you're actually going to have a very specific plan. I find that a lot of people try to save money and pay off multiple debts at the same time. You're trying to use a shotgun approach when you really need to be using a laser beam. So the snowball is going to give us that laser beam. So you're going to take whatever extra money between all your minimum payments and keeping the lights on. Any extra dime, you're going to throw it towards that lowest debt. So in our example, I think it was a $1,000 credit card. So let's say you've got $500. After you make all of your minimum payments, you're going to take that $500 and you're going to put it on that $1,000 credit card in addition to the minimum payment. When the next month comes, you're going to do it again. And hey, in that 2 months, you've paid off that first credit card. Now we're going to take that $500 plus whatever the minimum payment was. Now we're going to roll it into the second debt on top of that minimum payment. Hence the snowball. So every time you pay something off, you're going to have a little bit more money to go after the next debt, and then go after the next debt, and then go after the next debt, until you are finally debt free. So that's the goal. This is the hardest step, but it's the most worthwhile step, because now, since you're not trying to chase your money after old purchases, now you can actually put your money into your future self, and that's exciting. All right, the next baby step is going to be baby step number 3, and this is actually where things get a little more fun, so to speak. Baby step number 3 is fully funding your emergency fund. This is fun because for some people, this is going to be the first time they ever had this much money in their entire lives, just hanging out, cooling, sipping on some beer, and that, to me anyway, maybe I'm just a nerd, but that's pretty exciting. It's exciting to be able to know that, hey, I can have that rainy day and I've got it covered. So this is why I say this for me is when things start to get really exciting. So how do we do it? You're going to take that same money and the same intensity. Now's not the time to quit that second job. You're going to take all that money you were putting into debt and you're going to put it into a savings account until you have 3 to 6 months living expenses saved. The extra beautiful part is, since you're out of debt, your living expenses should actually go down quite a bit. All right, so how do we start funding this emergency savings fund? Now is not the time to quit the second job, say, I'm out of debt, I'm done. Hang on to it for a little bit longer, just long enough to get this emergency fund fully funded. Most financial coaches and professionals recommend a 3 to 6 month emergency fund. So look at what your new expenses are now that all of your debt's paid off, and something happens, somebody loses a job, how much money will I need to make it to 3 to 6 months? You might ask, how do I choose? How do I know whether I should have a 3-month fund or a 6-month fund? Well, really, that kind of depends on you and your situation. So for me, I'm very conservative when it comes to my money. I like that cushion. My husband has a little bit of a higher risk job. So for me, 6 months helps me sleep better at night. You may decide otherwise. You may say, you know what, I'm in a field that's hot, there's always need, I can get a job like that. You may only choose to keep 3 months worth of living expenses on hand, and that's fine. But for me personally, definitely 6, especially given the fact that the average job search takes about 6 to 7 months. Another population that might want to consider a 6-month emergency fund is single people. I've actually heard it be suggested the other way around, that single people can probably get away with 3 months, but truth be told, if I'm a single person, I'm the only one paying all the bills, so I would actually rather have a little bit more of a cushion, whereas if you have 2 working spouses, it's not that big a blow initially if you have that savings cushion there and you're keeping your living expenses down. So really, again, it depends on you, depends on what you do for work, how long it might take you to get a job, if you got kids, all those things. But the general rule of thumb is 3 to 6 months of living expenses. Alright, so after you fully fund your emergency fund, next comes baby steps 4, 5, and 6. And you're going to do them in order, but at the same time. So first is going to be baby step number 4, which is saving 15% of your income for retirement. This is more or less the chosen number for a lot of financial professionals. If you save, they've done the math, if you save this much of your income, come time to retire, most people are going to have a fairly comfortable retirement. So 15% mathematically for most people is going to be the best number to reach for to have the most comfortable retirement based on your current living, what's the word I'm looking for?
1 hour later.
Lifestyle is the word I'm looking for. Baby step number 5 is going to be, if you have kids, or expecting to have some in the not too distant future, is going to be saving for their college in either what's called a 529 or an ESA, either one of those accounts. And baby step number 6 is going to be paying off your house, or if you don't currently own a home, saving up for one. So if you don't have kids, you can again put that money towards your house instead, but you're definitely going to be saving 15% in baby step number 4. Okay, so you're saving 15% of your income in your retirement. You're saving for your kids' college fund, if that's applicable to you, and you're close to paying off your house or saving up for a huge down payment on a house. Things are looking good. It's time for step 7, which is the best step, which is build wealth and give. Think about it for a second. What could you do if you didn't have any payments? Who would you help? Whose business would you invest in? What kid in your community could you help send to college? We can do so much good if we aren't sending all of our money out to payments every month. I mean, and let's just be honest, politicians aren't going to help our community. No one's going to help improve our communities but us. And if we're not constantly chasing our money after payments, and we're focused on maximizing our income and building wealth, we can affect so much good for so many people around us. Well, that's it, you guys. That was the intro to the 7 baby steps. All of those steps can warrant their own video, which is exactly what's going to be coming next. So in the meantime, this is Personal Finance for Us. We out.